What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Friday. And the NFL Combine is now in full swing. We got players in their underwear running around Lucas Oil Stadium doing drills, and we're learning a lot about their capabilities. So, pretty much all the videos on this channel for the next several days are going to be about the Combine. Pretty much everything in the football world that matters right now is happening in Indianapolis. I was planning on doing one more free agency video, but I don't think that's necessary. The last free agent top 10 video I didn't really get much traction anyway. I think everyone's kind of mentally into the combine stuff already. So we'll just go ahead and bump along. The last video I had planned was going to be a really niche one anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. And yeah, we're going to bump along to the combine here pretty much full time, other than one video I'm going to post, I think, tomorrow morning until it's over and we've said everything that's needed to be said. So, one thing that happens at the combine that I haven't talked about yet that is very important is meetings. So, during the combine, each team will meet with certain players and you can learn a little bit about who they're interested in and who they might be locking in on based on who they visit with. So we don't get to learn about every player each team visits with, but we get to learn about a lot. So Field Goals, Mookie over at Field Goals, put together a list of official prospect visits so far. I think most of the visits were reported by Nemhauser, so shout out to both of those guys. So I thought we'd go ahead and take a look at the list and just talk it through real quick. And as time goes by and we have more official visits recorded, we will talk about those. And we'll probably get an idea on who the Seahawks might have their crosshairs on. Remember, you also have your top 30 visits before the draft after the combine. You also have pro days. So there are other opportunities to meet with certain players, but you learn something from the combine visits. So let's take a look at this tracker here. Again, this is on Field Goals if you want to read the whole thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing. And I think most of the data came from Nemhauser. So jumping ahead to the first reported visit was this is one that a lot of Seahawks fans have interest in just because of the name. Cornerback Kobe Bryant with a EE, not a Y. Kobe Bryant. Kansas, what are they, the Jayhawks? So that would be a very fun one if we have a secondary with one Kobe Bryant and then the other Kobe Bryant starting as well. And maybe that's unlikely, but it is a fun idea to think of. He had a formal interview with the Seahawks at the Combine, so clearly there's some degree of interest. And it does make a decent amount of sense. I think that this team needs a serious injection of cornerback depth. With the free agents they have right now, they're unlikely to have very much at all. If they trade Woolen, they're really going to need help at cornerback, and maybe they're not going to trade Woolen, and if not, that's fine. But even then, it gets thin very quickly. Technically, Josh Joby's a free agent. I don't think he's going anywhere, but technically, Josh Joby is a free agent. So that cornerback position may end up mattering a lot more than people are currently giving it credit for. Just because we've got a killer in Devin Witherspoon in one spot doesn't mean that we don't have to provide some really good players behind him. All right, so that was meeting number one. Nick Amanwari was meeting number two, and this is a really appealing one, and it's another one that I think a decent chunk of this fan base would not be super into. Amanwari is probably going to be a first-round pick if he tests well today. Amanwari is maybe going to be a first-round pick even if he doesn't test that well today. At minimum, he's a high second-round pick. I don't think a lot of Seahawks fans would be over the moon if we spent a high pick on a safety, but Amanwari is really good, and while the safeties we have right now are good, I could definitely see Mike McDonald going, I want to be great here. I want somebody special. I want a Kyle Hamilton. I want my Kyle Hamilton from Baltimore. But a different one, obviously, because I can't get that one, so let's get another one. I've talked about Malachi Starks a lot. Worry, some people think he's better than Starks. He's the one guy that is credibly ranked ahead of Starks among a decent chunk of the draft evaluating populace. So, great playmaker, great ball hawk, good size. If he runs a good 40 and looks good in the drills, I think he's a first round pick, and he could easily creep up into that top 20 range where the Seahawks could grab him and have it be good value. So, Worry is our second meeting. A lot of people are going to like that one. I know a lot of people won't get it, but I get it. Even if he won't be my number one guy, he is definitely a guy who would be a lot of fun to get. Next official meeting was with a tight end, Oregon, Terrence Ferguson. So there's definitely an interest in bolstering the tight end room. I don't know what that says about the current tight ends on the roster, guys like Noah Fant who could stay or go, but Ferguson was up. It was informal. That's one thing that Nemhauser points out, which is interesting. I don't know what the difference is. Ferguson, I believe, is a little bit on the bigger side as far as tight ends go. So there's probably some appeal because of that. To my knowledge, he's not really somebody who's considered a potential NFL fullback. Some of these tight ends have experience lining up in the backfield. Some of them have body types and skill sets that would indicate they could play that fullback role. That's obviously something that's very interesting to the Seahawks right now. I don't know if Ferguson is going to be able to do that stuff, but if we release Noah Fant, which I still think has a good possibility of happening, we're probably going to need another inline tight end and also a third tight end that can be a part-time fullback. So Ferguson remains on the menu either way. So we had a meeting with him. This one, however, goes more in the, how should I put this, utility player category. Jalen Conyers of Texas Tech. Tight end, fullback, did some quarterback. He's like a really poor man's version of Tyler Warren. And it looks like, by the way, Tyler Warren is going to go so high in the draft, the Seahawks have no opportunity to get him. So Jalen Conyers becomes a very intriguing option if you want that utility piece. The tight end / fullback, he can line up in line up in the backfield, line up in the slot, do all that kind of fun stuff. Jalen Conyers could be a guy you get in day 3 or maybe even UDFA. I don't know. His name is not a big name yet. And he provides that multiple sided value for you. That would be great. I think that would be a lot of fun. I like Conyers, so I'm behind that one. And the last guy was defensive back. I believe he's more of a corner. Quincy Riley, Louisville, player who looked really good at the Senior Bowl. I remember that. And he has met with the Seahawks formally. I think he's one of those guys who's really good at making plays on the ball, really good playmaker. So Quincy Riley, I believe, makes a good deal of sense as well. And one thing I should point out, keep in mind, we can only meet with players that are at the Combine, and the guys we have met with are guys from the early batch of players, right? We got cornerback, safety, tight end, defensive back. So these are all guys that are going to test today, which means they've all been at the Combine for a few days now, going through interviews. So understand that if you're wondering where the offensive linemen are, I think the offensive linemen either haven't arrived yet or have just arrived. So we can't meet with them yet. And it is interesting that we got through the linebackers, edge rushers, and defensive linemen, and we didn't hear any reports of meeting with any of them. I seriously doubt we have no interest in that group. Maybe we'll hear about that in the coming couple of days, but realistically, those team interviews should have been conducted by now. So I do find that to be a little bit curious that we have 5 meetings, all with the second day of entries, but none with the first day. All right, so that's really about it in terms of team meetings so far. I'll make another video whenever we rack up a new set of them. The only other thing really going on right now in the NFL world that I briefly want to touch on would be this right here. Chiefs franchise tagged Trey Smith, which doesn't terribly surprise me. I don't know if they're actually going to be able to afford to keep him on the tag, so it feels like a little bit of an empty threat. but we'll see which way this ends up going. Obviously, this is a significant roadblock to any team, including the Seahawks, signing him in free agency. But I do think it's worth pointing out that that was always unrealistic. There was no way that John Schneider, with the way that he thinks about football, was ever going to spend 20 mil a year plus. And I do think we're in plus territory now, like 21, 22 million a year on a right guard. I never expected that. And honestly, it's not something that I was enamored with personally either. That's not something that I would typically do. Now, I was open to it. I thought of the star level free agents, he was the best guy to try to target. But I'm not surprised by this, and I'm personally not too torn up about it. So, Trey Smith, basically take him out of your minds. He's off the menu, but that's I don't think that really changes anything for this team. I know some fans wanted him. I would have certainly liked to have him, but I always suspected that even if the team was aggressive in fixing the offensive line, they would take a different route to it. Okay, I'm out of here. See you guys later on. Go Hawks. More Combine stuff at noon, so I'm going to be watching that. And another video goes up later tonight after it's over. All right, everyone have a good day. Go Hawks.